Hello again, book lovers. The Uses of Literacy, Aspects of Working Class Life by Richard Hoggart. I don't think I've mentioned why I read certain books, as in who, if anybody, recommended them. Well, in this case it was the book reviewer in Private Eye who mentioned in passing this work, which he described as a classic and a curio. So I thought, okay, a classic I haven't heard of. This seems to come from a similar school to George Orwell. It's kind of essay style. It was presented as being unclassifiable. I'm going to leave it there. It was kind of a collection of snippets of working class life in the first part, and in the second part you get a criticism about the hollowness of it all. And having read some lit crit and being incredibly bored by it, I think it's sort of tending towards that kind of area. Here he is talking about changes in styles of popular song, for instance. In the newer style, the melodies usually have their vigour syncopated out of existence in favour of a drumming mass call, which suggests an increasing reliance on the group appeal simply as an escape from personality and choice. The fibre of personal oddity and positive group sense are both missing. So I think you can see from that the kind of, I find it rather florid style, rather haughty as well. I won't be erring on the side of leniency in this review, contrary to what normally happens. Right, part one to me was a sort of litany of bits and pieces of working class life, one that my grandparents, if not my parents, would have known, as it's based on northern working class communities, northwest and sort of Hull region and Yorkshire. And it seemed I couldn't really see the point of it. There was a lot of stuff about what songs they sang. Curiously, I knew the first line of just about all of them, and only the first line. I recognised a lot of phrases that my mum and dad used, and okay, turn the pages, suddenly you're halfway through and it's part two, with not a lot having happened really. Part two draws out what was kind of emerging in part one, where our author seems to dislike all aspects of working class culture. His theme is that there's a sort of mechanisation, over massification, especially in the world of art and manners. But my heavens, nobody gets off the hook. The Sunday papers are all terrible for one reason or another. He doesn't like alliteration. You can see the sort of rise of the page 3 girls. This book, however you classify it, has the reputation of being a little bit prescient. Well, kinda, in that he describes things that are emerging in 1957, which is when it was written. So as well as the rather sexier pin-up girls, you can see the Sunday magazine ads as precursors to Amazon and that kind of service these days, as they were all send off a postal order to this warehouse in Slough and we'll send you the X-ray specs or whatever it was. Mr. Hoggart complains about American fashions, the jukebox boys he calls these people, just as I, in my curmudgeonliness, would now complain about the missing Cockney accent, which has been supplanted by Jamaican patois. So it is rather a moan, to put it that way. There's always the loss of soul of the modern pop music. I mean, you know, this could have been written yesterday. And as I say, there seems to be a little bit of lack of appreciation for the modern working classes, from which Mr. Hoggart sprang, though you can tell by his writing that he's had an education, which is really what I thought this book was going to be about, but it wasn't. Mr. Hoggart seems, to my mind, to be very happy to tar folk as dumb or inadequate. So you get the idea that it's a little bit looking down on people as well. Another interesting little snippet was that the trust in the BBC was high back in them days, but the trust in papers wasn't. They were always considered to be suspect. And there's a kind of double-edged way of looking at authority as well, which is investigated. Anyway, as you can see, it's a bit of a mishmash. It didn't have me on the edge of my seat, I have to say, except when suddenly, just after the start of part 2, you get quotes at the beginning of each section. I thought, well, this is going to kick-start into life suddenly. I found the 2 quotes both arresting, so to damn this book with faint praise, I'd like to say at least it's got these quotes in. Sadly, it's got a lot of other quotes in which were really quite boring. But what do you think about this? John Locke, which I probably read and it washed over my head. Since it's unavoidable to the greatest part of men, if not all, to have several opinions without certain proof of their truths, it would become all men to maintain peace and the common offices of human and friendship in the diversity of opinions. We would do well to commiserate our mutual ignorance and endeavour to move it in all the gentle and fair ways of information, and not instantly treat others ill, as obstinate and perverse, because they will not renounce their own and receive our opinions. Again, that could have been written yesterday. And finally, a rather brilliant aphorism from Tom Paine. Toleration is not the opposite of intolerance, but is the counterfeit of it. Both are despotisms. The one assumes to itself the right of withholding liberty of conscience, and the other of granting it. So that, for me, page 153 was the best page of the book. If you like lit-crit, want to find out what the post-war years looked like from the perspective of 1957, this is the book for you. I personally couldn't find much use for it.